boys. UFC Noche, Diego Lopes versus Jean Silva just wrapped up. And this is going to be my full card breakdown, my fight recap to this hectic card. What a card. Fantastic card. I call this card to majorly over-deliver, and it did just that. There's some awesome results for the Mexican fighters who I'm pretty sure went undefeated. That's kind of including Diego Lopes. He counts as Mexican. I think he was shouting Viva la Mexico. There were some sick finishes on this card, some crazy wars. The main event did its job. It was actually insane. It was a strong fight of the year contender. I think you'd have to be arguing fairly well to make a case for any other fight. We only got 2 rounds, but in the end, if we got more rounds, it could have been an all-time legendary fight. But the 2 rounds we got were absolutely epic, insane. I still think you can call that fight of the year based off just those 2 rounds. Insane stuff. We're going to start at this main event and go through the card, one fight at a time. The picks are pretty washed, boys. I'm not going to lie. I did it again. I described my admiration for the guy in the main event and said all the reasons why he should win and gave him his credit, and then picked the other guy. 0-2 on main event picks to start the channel is not what you're looking for, but I'm not too upset because my logic was still correct in both of those fights. I just went with the wrong guy, so it does happen. Some random stuff did hit this weekend though, which I'm pretty happy with, but the dog of the week's what's killed me this week, boys. Dustin Stoltzfus letting us down. That was a linchpin in a couple of my multis this week, so I didn't do too well. And it sucks when a lame result like that cooks you. I'll be giving Dustin Stoltzfus a bit of a roast in the future. But anyways, off this card, let's get into the fights and break them down. Let's start with the main event. Epic fight. Diego Lopes versus Jean Silva. Not gonna lie, when I saw this photo of Silva looking like a hobbit, I got a little bit worried. And with Lopes just coming in with the alpha, the Chad mullet and the mustache, I ended up picking Jean Silva by TKO round 3 or 4. You got to say it could have happened if we did get to the round 3 or 4, but Jean Silva, he cooked it, mate. He stuffed up big time. He poured out so much energy on his walkout. It took him half an hour to walk out, and in that moment, he had a deep, meaningful, sensual moment with his missus outside the cage, and stared into her eyes deeply and gave her a kiss. And straight up, I'm thinking, I'm a bit worried about this pick. I was always a bit worried about this pick. So Silva has massive autism levels. He just made everyone in the whole building uncomfortable when he came in. Stood for just way too long when his music started. Just held onto some kid's head on his walkout. He's like, I love you. Bark like a dog. The whole arena's barking. It had weird vibes, bro. And then when Bruce Buffer was announcing him, he got right up in Bruce's face and just stared him down like this. And I was just thinking in my head the whole time, I kind of hope this guy gets chinned here. And hey, this is what happened. Round 1, it was a slow pace at the start, like I sort of called. Silva was sizing up that front kick, and I could see he had eyes on that front kick early. And then he's sort of winning on the feet, getting his reads, downloading the data, like I said, was going to happen. And he just does I think it was like a spinning back kick or something, and Lopes just accepts the free takedown and just starts crushing him. Landed straight into full mount got the body lock and just fucked him up from the go. Raining down big elbows, punch after punch. He split Silva, I think it was with his first elbow he landed on top of his bald head, and just blood started going everywhere. Lopes was just, he got so high up on the full mount that he started actually almost sitting on his neck, just beef stewing him, just punch after punch, 12-6 elbows, massive damage, and Silva hung in there somehow. He was bucking and moving around, and credit to him for his survival. But at points there, he was sort of smiling and talking to Silva. I don't think he was ever in too much danger of sort of going out or anything, but Lopes just completely big brothered him. Did not give him a chance to get up, and it showed some really elite wrestling and top game and pressure game with jiu-jitsu. But Silva survived. He had one last little push where I thought if he doesn't get out of here soon, the ref's going to have to stop it. He's absolutely getting dominated here. And then he had one last push, rolled over, and Diego kind of gave it up and went for the triangle and sort of went for a sub. But Silva landed back on top, kind of Volkanovski, Makachev round 5 style, and started raining down a few good shots. But Lopes, had good defense. They ended up back on their feet, and neither guy really got too much done in that last sort of minute or so. Silva landed a few times. It was a clear striking advantage for Silva, but the chin on Lopez was insane. I still would give that first round a 10-8 for Diego Lopez. I wouldn't call you an idiot if you said 10-9. There was some very dicey moments for Jean Silva out of there. He almost got him out of there a couple of times with that full mount. But then at other moments of the round when they were on the feet, Silva looked decent. So a huge round. I think a 10-8 for Lopez. He was looking massive, experienced out there, and just showing that he had championship caliber and experience. And he wasn't taking the fight. He was taking it more seriously than Silva. Silva was just doing his thing in clip farm and worried about like barking and touching gloves and just doing the same shit that he always does. And Lopez was just there having a no-nonsense approach and said, fuck your glove touch. We're getting down to business here, mate. And he did, and he was the one that got down to business first and really landed some big damage on Silva that changed the trajectory of this fight. I was very, very worried coming around too, but I did say that Lopez was going to have some success with the wrestling early, and he, you never know how much energy he expended there, keeping him down. But I'm sure that more energy was expended on Silva's part. So big round for Lopez. Round two, it just got better and better, this fight. Silva came out looking good and like he'd recovered, and he was smiling, still in there, and just started doing the fighting nerds clip farming thing, and he was trading and just trying to aura farm and get clips, and he just never really put his foot on the gas until the wrong moment. Lopez was just eating shots, and they were like talking to each other, and I wrote down that Jean needs to stop doing this and just fight him and worry about Diego Lopez. This guy is dangerous in front of you, and you're sort of taking it as a bit of a joke. Silva landed a couple of big 1-2s. Lopez was countering him here and there. Silva was just starting to do some really dynamic and expressive stuff, like some stepping elbows where he looked good, and he was landing big shots on Lopez. I don't know what Lopez's chin is made of, because at the end of that round, at the end of sort of the first minute or two of that round before the full chaos ensued, Silva was landing some flying knees, some straight rights, three-piece combinations that sort of wobbled him, straight left, body elbow, body shot, elbow, and I was just thinking, what is this dude's chin made of? Lopez, what a man. He just kept poking his neck, taking shots and marauding forward. And then the next thing, it was just Lopez hunting him and not taking a step back, and Silva did the exact same thing as he did in round one. He overcommitted with his back. Like he had his back against the cage trying to get some respect, and overcommitted on a shot and just turned his back, and Lopez was straight on it. Lopez wasn't shooting takedowns in this fight, but he was just perfectly capitalising on the moments of weakness and the mistakes from Silva, and he just did it again perfectly. Judged it well, slipped and moved, and immediately took the back of Silva with a single leg lock and didn't give it up. Silva was getting tagged with some shots from behind, some around the guard shots from Lopez, and then Silva did do a bit of a Granby roll, and then looked like he was going to get up, and Lopez just slammed him back down and had him in side control against the cage, and it was starting to look bad for Silva at that moment. Next thing, Silva stands up and just starts going crazy. I don't know if he realised that he was gassed out or if he was starting to think he couldn't get it done, because he absolutely emptied the tank at the end of this round. Just body kicks, like going in hard, throwing combinations, landing on Lopez. Lopez just taking punches like an absolute boss. And then Lopez, as he's sort of going backwards, like Stipe Miocic, Fabricio Verdum style, kind of dancing back along the cage as Silva's coming forward, throwing wild shots. Lopez just locks in, dips down, turns around, throws the most well-timed spinning back elbow, a bit like Lerone Murphy did on Aaron Pico a couple of weeks ago, and just hits him like on top of the temple or something, but just landed it so flush on his bald head again. Split him so bad, rocked him, dropped him, blood everywhere, just spurting out. The ref gave it Silva every chance, but Lopez just swarmed him, rocked the fuck out of him, jumped on, just bang, bang, bang. Big shots to the back of the head, but who cares? Just busted him bad, and Silva just gets pounded out bad. He stood straight up. The ref jumped in, stopped it. Silva stood straight up and argued and then walked off, but he was badly busted. There was a big egg on his head. There was blood going everywhere. He'd been tagged and like lit up from elbows twice. It was just chaos, blood all over him, and I think it was a pretty good stoppage. At first, I was thinking a little bit early, but when I saw the replay and saw how clean that elbow landed and how bad he was rocked and how many follow-up shots Lopez landed, I got absolutely no problem with the stoppage at all. Silva did, but he stood up and then threw a punch to the back of the head of Diego Lopez. Absolute bitch move, but I think he was just knocked out and concussed and feeling the emotion of it all. And what's that, his first loss or his second loss or something? So he doesn't know how to lose Silva, and it went to show. Lopez starts mouthing off and flipping off Silva's corner and getting the crowd on his side. It was just an epic moment, just symbolised Noche, and I really hope that Lopez, that they put this Lopez versus Yair fight on, because the Coulon fight, I'm so hyped for that now. I'm so hyped for any Diego Lopez fight. Still very hyped for a Jean Silva fight, but it was kind of satisfying to see him get humbled and the dogs stop barking. So hell yeah, Diego Lopez. Again, another pick I've got wrong in a main event, but I'm not sad about whatsoever. It was eggs. It was awesome from Lopez. So yeah, give him a big fight, give him a number one contender fight against either Lopez or against Yair, which kind of, if Lopez wins, it could be a number one contender fight, or against Evloev. Evloev versus Lopez rematch, they got beef. Winner would deserve another title shot, and let's hope that Volk is safely defeated Lerone Murphy and retired into the sunset by then. Let's get on to the co-main event. This was a pretty disappointing performance from Rob Font. I picked Font by decision, and Martinez got it clearly done by decision. Rounds 1 and round 3 won it clearly. Basically TKO'd Rob Font at the end of round 3. The ref actually waved it off. The buzzer went, and the buzzer went twice, and nobody heard it, not even the ref. I'm surprised they don't have a clearer way of communicating to the ref that the round is over. Surely there's a watch or something they can get, or a buzzer band, or I don't know. But like when people's health and safety's on the line, and maybe one fighter hears the buzzer and stops fighting, and the other one is allowed to just free rein on him. So it kind of felt a little bit like that. But Martinez did have him rocked, and if the fight was 10 seconds long, it would have been a clear-cut, clean TKO win for David Martinez. Yeah, I think the ref waved it off before he realised that the buzzer had gone. That was just because the crowd was going nuts, so respect to the crowd and Martinez for capitalising on his moment. I gave Martinez rounds 1 and 3 clearly anyway, despite that TKO the kind of TKO at the end. Rob Font clearly won round 2. It did look like Font was starting to cruise to a decision, kind of like the way that I'd called it after round 2. But in round 3, Font just did absolutely nothing. And Martinez got a second win and just starched him. I reckon he got a bit of a second win from the crowd. The crowd was chanting Martinez, and Rob Font just didn't do enough. And it's a kind of typical Rob Font performance. I've said it before that he's a journeyman. He doesn't take control of the big moments, and he loses another fight here to a contender that I think he would like to think, and a lot of people would have thought that he should have beaten. He had the tools to do so. Font's jab was kind of money in this fight, but there was absolutely nothing behind it, and Martinez proved to be a problem for him. And I think it was in round 3 that Martinez was starting to lose, that he actually made the adjustment of switching back to southpaw, and that just caused a new set of problems for Font, and he wasn't able to sort of get his reads in time. The fight was pretty clear. It was disappointing. It didn't go that far away from how I thought it would, but Martinez gets it done by basically TKO, but after the bell. So 29-28 decision for Martinez. Interesting prospect and deserves a fight up the rankings. He's got a bit of power, and he seems to have a decent gas tank and fight IQ. So yeah, good performance from Martinez. Rob Font, what was he doing in the co-main? I mean, it is what it is. Another pick. So the main card I did really poorly on. Another fight here that I called wrong and almost flip-flopped on, to be honest, but a lot of people were putting respect on Jared Gordon. I chose him by decision. Apparently he got hit by a fucking car yesterday and his knee was cooked, so that's good intel to have after the fact. It's just another sad story of Jared Gordon's sad career. He's like the Jared from Subway, bro. Just starts off so good, has some terrible things happen, then does something fucking stupid. What did he do? Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about this guy, but just because they're called Jared. But Jared Gordon's sad UFC run continues. Subway Gordon, he round 1, it was a close round, but I thought Rafa Garcia landed the cleanest shots. Round 2 was one of the best rounds of the night. It was a sick one. It was a nasty start for Rafa Garcia. and he tagged Gordon up bad straight away. And then Jared went for a takedown, and Rafa had latched up a deep guillotine. Somehow, like, Gordon got mounted in the deepest, hardest gilly, but played on and just popped his head out like kind of that Volkanovski effort against Ortega in their title fight. Crazy heart from Jared Gordon. He eventually scrambled it up and survived a bit of wrestling, and then Gordon started peppering Garcia with jabs and just got nasty with it in the pocket. They were both sitting their head there on the line, swanging and banging, and then landing big shots on each other. But the jabs from Rafa Garcia had a bit more sting. I think Gordon was landing more regular shots, but every time Rafa Garcia would land, it would hurt Gordon and busted him up, and he was wearing the visible damage for sure, which I didn't expect. I thought that might have been the other way around. Rafa Garcia landed an elbow, which was probably the most impactful shot of that round, and split Jared Gordon up. I think because of that, even though Gordon kind of won the last minute on the feet, Rafa Garcia got another big elbow, and the blood was leaking down Gordon's face. And I think you have to give round two to Rafa Garcia as well. Maybe it was a close round, that one. What have they got the strikes at in round two? Yeah, look, Gordon was doing a lot of work and landing some good jabs, but just the elbows that Rafa Garcia were landing were nasty, and the shots had more impact, and he stumbled Gordon back a few more times, even though they both did it to each other. Round three, it's still anyone's fight. I did have it for Garcia, and I thought it was going Garcia's way, but you never know. Jared Gordon's got great toughness, and he showed it in this fight. Gordon was beat up at the start of round three and started getting really sloppy and gassed out, and it was looking bad. Gordon landed one, and then Rafa got him with a 1-2 that just rocked him and took his equilibrium away. And after that, it was pretty much one-way traffic for Garcia. He stood in the pocket, and he was just landing jabs and hooks and some leg kicks and stuff. And Jared just stepped straight into a right hand as he's going in for a shot and just goes down bad. Just the momentum clashed perfectly, and it was a perfect shot from Garcia. And I think the damage accumulation finally got to Jared Gordon, and he went down. And then, like, credit to Gordon, he keeps fighting and showing that he's in it. But Rafa Garcia got him in like a sort of drag rear naked choke, similar to the one that Fluffy had on Delizzi the other day, and I got it in deep and was folding his head over his neck, but somehow Gordon didn't tap. Again, he's got great heart, but he was done. And Garcia jumps on top, lands some huge elbows, busted Jared Gordon up bad. The ref, stopped it eventually. Decent stoppage, but Gordon was done. I feel so bad for Jared Gordon. I feel bad for me for picking him. I think a lot of people picked him, but Rafa Garcia was a live underdog there, and I think all the things we said about Gordon were true. We do need to put some respect on him. He has done what he's done in the UFC, and he should be proud of that. But when you're a journeyman that gets hit by a car the day before the fight, then there's a good chance you're going to win a UFC fight. Bad luck, Jared Gordon. Rafa Garcia, good win. Bit of a journeyman himself. But anyways, KG versus Dustin Stoltzfus. This fight annoyed me. I picked Stoltzfus by decision, and I got a bit distracted in this fight. I was doing a couple other things around the house, and I watched round one, and I thought that Dustin Stoltzfus landed one round one clearly. They've got him for 24 significant strikes to 14. Yeah, I thought that he won round one. And then I kind of only half watched round 2 and 3, and I thought maybe Dustin could have got it. I was a bit annoyed when they read out the scorecards because I had a couple of good multis cooking on this fight, and this was my dog of the week, and I almost called it perfectly. I knew Stoltzfus would be a match for Kelvin. I knew that he had a decent chin. I knew that he had a little bit of everything. He could wrestle with him. He could strike with him. That he would have a bit of speed and some heavy hands. And there were times when Stoltzfus was doing the right thing, but Kelvin's chin is just there. He had 5 pounds on him. He missed weight by 5 pounds, so that didn't help Dustin. The fight went kind of exactly how I thought it would, except that Kelvin won round 3. I thought Dustin would have won round 1 and round 2, and Kelvin would win round 3, but it kind of went Dustin round 1, Kelvin clearly round 2, and he had Dustin Stoltzfus rocked and scrambling around multiple times, and then a close round 3 that Kelvin clearly won. At first, I was raging because I didn't actually watch round 3 that closely and just watched the last minute, and it looked like Stoltzfus had done enough. But then I went back and watched round 3, and these were kind of my takes on it. It was the only round that was really important in the end, so I kind of wrote some notes on this one. Started with a big body shot from KG and it forced a takedown attempt from Dustin Stoltzfus. Good sprawl from KG and a bit of trading. A decent right hand from Dustin. Kelvin just fighting his style. He got clipped, I think, by a leg kick and it floored him for a second. And some more good kicks from Dustin. But then he just did a lazy, sloppy takedown attempt from way outside of range. And KG just flowed into a headlock. Got onto his back, but Dustin just stood up. They traded punches. Kelvin was backing him up. Stoltzfus had his back on the cage a few times. And then Dustin landed some good counter shots. KG ate a big shot just with an epic chin that probably would have cracked to some of the shots if he was anyone else. Kelvin's chin's amazing. I said that in the prediction video. He was slipping and moving pretty well, and then he just landed a big right hand that was probably the biggest shot of the fight. And that was about it. A couple of counters. I think one landed in Stoltzfus' Adam's apple and he kind of knocked the wind out of him a bit. They had a big exchange at the end and Kelvin landed a big overhand left and just put a bit of a stamp on it. At the end, he had a spinning elbow and he tried a couple of head kicks. The momentum went with Kelvin in round 3, which gave him the fight clearly, 29-28. I think one of the refs had it 30-27, which is a pretty wash scorecard. I thought Stoltz was clearly won round 1. But Kelvin gets it done by decision. Yep, another shit pick. Dustin cooked me multis. Wasn't too far off, but yeah, bad pick. Next fight down was Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira or Carlos Diego Ferreira. I don't know what happened to the Carlos, bro. Like, what's wrong with Carlos? Anyway, Diego Ferreira. Pretty good performance from Hernandez. They both showed up, these boys. Ferreira was looking dangerous. In round 1, Diego won that round clearly. He had Hernandez scooting around the cage, but I could see Hernandez was doing well. He was staying out of danger, landing a few stepping jabs, and even though he was getting backed up and it was looking pretty touch and go there for a while, he did enough to just stay out of range of Ferreira's good shots. And what he was able to land on Hernandez didn't really impact him that much. I gave it 10-9 Ferreira for the octagon pressure and control, but I wasn't too disappointed in Hernandez's first round there because I picked Hernandez by TKO or decision. Round 2 starts and there was an immediate eye poke from Alexander Hernandez, which it's a shame, but sometimes things like that do change the trajectory of the fight, and we see that a lot, which is, every fighter should throw their one free foul a fight because they get away with it. Anyway, more of the same for most of this round, to be honest. Hernandez was starting to get more comfortable, though, and hanging in there. He was taking less and less damage and causing Diego Ferreira to miss more and more, and I think Diego Ferreira started getting a little bit frustrated, and he started kind of putting a little bit more effort and going a little bit more loosely and with a bit less technique and just kind of charging in and then I sort of saw it coming and he just, because Diego Ferreira had him up against the cage and he pounced on him and then fucking walked straight into a timed right elbow from Hernandez and just gets dropped bad. Hernandez pours it on top, just lit him up on the ground, dropped huge ground and pound shots. Diego Ferreira stayed in it and did well. But he just got a couple of big ones, in the midst of the flurry that bounced his head off the canvas and stunned him a bit. And then all of a sudden, Hernandez just swarmed him and just started landing big shots. He threw about 7 or 8 huge shots that landed on Ferreira and bounced his head off the octagon. And I think the ref could have stopped that fight 5 or 6 shots earlier. So late stoppage from the ref. The refs were, having a bit of a shocker tonight at that point. So... but Hernandez gets it done by TKO. I was pretty confident in this pick, and even though I was worried that if this went the other way, I would look like a bit of an idiot because Diego Ferreira is a fucking problem. He's a nasty dude. But I just backed the intangibles, and I think that was the right thing to do in this fight, given how close it was going to be. And it was the momentum and the hype and the fluke that kind of was on Hernandez's side, and that's how we got it done. So good job, Alexander Hernandez. Late stoppage. He called out Michael Chandler at the end, which is a pretty hype fight. I don't know if his name value is enough to get that fight, but I would like to watch that fight. I think Hernandez would probably win. Hernandez had a great year in the UFC so far, and good on him. That was a good pick, that one. Let's move on. The next fight was the big main card opener and the debut of Santiago Luna against Quang Lee. I picked Luna here by TKO, and we got another pick here. So actually, the main card I did get a couple on. It was just the top few fights that I really struggled with. So round one, it didn't go well this one, because round one Luna got dropped immediately 10 seconds in, and just by a fadeaway left hook from Quang Lee. I thought it was going to go really bad for him, and he then got head kicked and wobbled with that too, and he was looking tense and nervous and started kind of swinging, and then Quang Lee just stood his base and landed some big combos, and it was a worrying start for Luna. I think he had some octagon jitters, and they were on show out there. Bit of wrestling against the cage from Luna and a few knees, and Quang Lee was just reversing him and doing a bit of clinch work. We had a stalemate there for a little bit, and then just as Quang Lee was looking composed and DC started gassing up Luna a bit, saying, he's got a good young chin, but he this is a different level in the UFC, and people were starting to ride on Quang Lee a little bit. And then just as the crowd starts chanting out, "Let's go, Luna," you can't underrate the factor of the home crowd. Even though this is in America, the crowd was huge for the Mexican fighters, and they were almost willing some of their fighters over the line. And this was a classic example, because as soon as the crowd started going off for Luna, he just catches Lee with a step back left hook, drops him absolutely bad. Quang Lee popped straight back up and started quanging, banging and firing up, but he was covering up, and then Luna just poured it on him, landed some big shots, floored him again, and it was over. The ref jumped on and, took his chance to stop this fight immediately. A little bit early, but not going to complain too much about that one. But just another not quite right ref stoppage on this card. And Santiago Luna gets it done by round one TKO. Good job, man. There was some holes there, I think. He's young, but he looked good. He showed good resilience to stay in the fight, and he has his big moment in front of his big home crowd, and I got the pick pretty well there. TKO for Santiago Luna. All right, I'll fly through the rest of these fights. The prelims were pretty solid in this card. There was the biggest moment, obviously, was in the main event, but there was a couple of interesting moments here, a couple of shit fights too. The headliner of the prelims, somehow, some way, was Jose Medina versus Dusko Todorovic. I picked Dusko by decision or TKO, and actually kind of got that one wrong because he got a first-round sub, but I had a pretty confident pick in Dusko, even though I said it was a coin flip fight. My heart was with Dusko on this one. He was my immediate reaction when I saw this fight, announced that Dusko would get it done by just moving forward and being better. It didn't go exactly how I thought it would go, even though it did for the first bit. But the finish was a little bit unexpected for me, but it just goes to show that Jose Daniel Medina is absolutely pus level. Just Dusko was a superior technical boxer, and that's all Jose Medina has, is basic boxing skills, like a bit of heart, cardio, and a decent chin, but even that was not good enough. Dusko split him early and just had him looking like he'd gone 5 hard rounds after 2 minutes of the fight. Medina was just so sloppy. I think just cut him from the UFC. He looked like shit. Dusko was just being calm, patient, landed a big step in straight right hand that Medina was just begging to be hit with the whole night long, all 3 minutes of this fight. Medina eats it and then just gets grappled and taken down easily just with a single leg. He tries to stand up with absolutely no defense, no technique, and Dusko just gives up his back. Dusko easily gets a hook in, takes him down, attacks a rear naked choke, rolled him over, and easily submitted him. Yeah, picked the right guy there, but not the best call on this fight. But hey, we'll take what we can get, hey? Speaking of that, my lock of the card also didn't quite pick it the way that it went in the end, but a confident pick nonetheless. And we're 2-0 with the locks of the week. Let's go. 2-0. We can at least rely on them when the chaos is happening everywhere else. I picked Joaquin Silva by KO as my lock of the week. I picked him in round 1 or 2 as KO, and he ended up winning by a very close, razor-thin split decision where he really only won because of a big exchange and a one exchange at the end of round 3. In a round that was going either way. I do think that even without that flurry at the end that you could still give that fight to Silva, but it was a lot closer than it needed to be, especially with the lock of the week riding. Round 1, Puelles, I've got to give him his props. He looked a little bit better than I sort of described him that he would. He got a takedown straight away, lifted up Silva and dropped him straight on his back, and then a bunch of just absolutely lame ass nothing from from CP, Claudio Puelles. I think he's the guy who actually deserves to be nicknamed CP. I think let's give Carlos Prates a rest, and this guy can be CP because he's that type of fighter. He's just a cringe lord. He had a couple of minutes of domination on top, landed some little shots here and there. Neto BJJ Silva was doing enough to stay safe. He even almost got a leg of Puelles at one point, and he used that to get up, which I like, because a lot of other fighters would have used that leg lock just to threaten the leg lock. But Silva knew that he didn't want that smoke on the ground from CP, and yeah, he just used the leg lock to threaten. CP immediately panic rolled out, and Silva got back up. There was a little bit of boxing and some exchanges and knees against the thigh at the end of the fight from Puelles, and that was pretty much his successful round one, where that was about the best we were going to get out of Puelles. Round two, he tries the same thing. He got immediate double leg takedown and took down Silva, and I was pretty annoyed at that point, just thinking, are you serious that this little bitch is going to run through my lock of the week and just make it look easy on the ground? Anyway, CP got his back, but Silva stayed calm and worked up by controlling his wrist. It looked like there was a glove grab there, but a glove grab from Silva, but whatever works. Like I said, just cheat and you'll win the fight. Silva started landing some combos and boxing Puelles up a bit, but Puelles was in there. He was doing the typical BJJ, throwing explosive random kicks and head kicks and stuff. Silva didn't do much in response. He stuffed a few takedowns and started kind of working him out and landed some shots as the round went on. Then he landed a couple of good body shots and a good teep to the body that really hurt CP and sent him diving for the legs. And I was just going finish him, finish this bitch, get up. And then he just kept diving. Puelles just, diving for the legs, just in a really pathetic type of way, doing what I thought, was going to happen in this fight. And then somehow Silva puts a finger up his bum again and latches up a deep gilly at the end of round two that probably would have finished CP, and he gets saved by the bell. I think maybe Silva, it was like a standing, and he's putting all his body weight on his head and pulling down on the gilly. It was pretty nasty. I think it would have probably led to a stoppage there. But anyway, saved by the bell again. Round three with it 10, 19-19 going into the last. I was a little bit nervous still. My round one, round two TKO for Silva pick was cooked, which I'm sorry about. And I was a little bit annoyed and thinking that maybe Puelles was just going to do the same thing. And then straight away into round three, it's just a time takedown from Puelles. He did eat an uppercut on the way in, but he was able to fall into the takedown and just controlled Silva up against the cage for 2 minutes again in a very non-exciting, non-combat sport type of way. He did chain wrestle and get Silva down a couple of times, but Silva started bouncing back up, and I said that was a good sign for Silva. Pretty even striking until CP did stick a pretty decent jab on Silva that wobbled him a bit, and then went for a head kick and fell over and shot back for the legs. There was a minute or so where Puelles was winning the striking, not by a great margin, but doing enough, and I had this round pretty well in Puelles' favour at about halfway through. Silva got him in a headlock for a bit and landed a couple of damaging knees, which I think hurt and changed the fight a little bit there. Hurt Puelles. After he broke away, he started swinging. Silva knew he needed a finish, or at least needed a really big round to steal this one. Puelles obliged him for some reason and actually showed a bit of heart and stood in the middle. But Silva's pointing down and Puelles is kind of just swaying his head and looking for more takedowns. And then Silva just lands a big body shot and tags him up and a body shot 1-2 upstairs combo. Put Puelles down bad. It was a really bad look at the end of the round. Finished with some big shots on top, and I think secured that round for a nail-biting 29-28 decision for Silva, and he does get the nod. Although I think Chris Lee had it 29-28 for Puelles. I guess he maybe gave round three to Puelles, but that's a pretty shameful scorecard. I think it was the damage. If you value damage in a fight, Silva clearly won. No, good fight. They're both shit. Silva, that was a very dodgy lock of the week, but hey, we'll take what we can get. And that was another pick. I was feeling all right at that point. Got this one too. That's Suarez versus Lemos. I'm not going to talk too much about this fight. I called this one perfectly. A close-ish decision win for Suarez, using her wrestling and her physicality to get it done after getting some problems on the feet from Lemos. Lemos did absolutely nothing in rounds 1 or 2. Suarez just exposed her, wrestling and her pressure. Suarez looked awful in the striking, pretty awful in her wrestling as well. Just had the shameless approach of winning by a pressure-based cage-grabbing decision, like cage control-based decision. She also kneed Lemos in the dick bad in round 1. It was a very uneventful round 1 and 2, just Suarez pressuring and Lemos looking better on the feet, but Suarez not letting it be on the feet. I think it was 20 to 18 after 2, even though round 2 and round 1 were both close because Tatiana did no damage with her cage control, but I gave them both to Tatiana because there was nothing really else to compare it to. Round 3, absolute snooze fest with Suarez just putting the Marab pace on her, kneeing her in the thigh, rabbit punches, to a thigh at one point. Holy shit, they're going to do some damage. Lemos is going to be sore to the thigh tomorrow from those rabbit punches. She lifted Lemos up and dunked her, but then Lemos, had some good core strength and reversed her, but then Suarez just did the Derek Lewis and just stood up and kept sort of pressuring forward and controlling her against the cage until right near the end, and Lemos has a big moment, landed a sick elbow on the break and another one that rocked Suarez and took her legs almost out from under her, and then just started pouring it on, tagging her up, and it looked like it was touch and go there for Suarez. But Suarez showed a bit of composure, goes to her back, and then Lemos engaged and dived in and threw some punches, and Suarez just did enough to stay safe and keep her head away from the shots for the last 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Clear 10-9 for Lemos, but she needed the finish there, I thought. I don't think you're crazy by giving 2 rounds to Lemos here, although I think Tatiana, most people would agree that Tatiana won rounds 1 and 2. Not a very dominant performance from Suarez. I'm walking back my big number 1 contender fight performance in Suarez back in the mix sort of take, but I mean, what else have we got at women's strawweight? It's with Weili gone. So Suarez will be back up in the mix, but not the most impressive performance, but I did pick a clear decision win for Suarez. So I'll take that as well. Coin flip fight that I literally flipped a coin for, Luis Garule and Jesus Aguilar. This fight was kind of like mini Jean Silva versus mini Diego Lopez, but not really. But he does look like a mini Jean Silva. Kind of fought like him too. I didn't really watch this fight that closely. I think Aguilar round one. I think Garule won round 2. Aguilar dropped him bad with a jab at the start of round 3 and jumped to Gilly. There was some good scrambles and exchanges from both. Very, very close third round, and especially the last minute. I think this fight could have gone either way, and I said it was a coin flip for fight. Round 1, Aguilar wins on significant strikes. Round 2, pretty even, so maybe that could have gone to Aguilar as well. And round 3, Garule. But I think the shots at the end probably swayed in Aguilar's favour. So Aguilar gets it done. I got that pick wrong. Oi, this one though. Oi, the Wheel of Doom gets its first victim. The wheel has spoken. Now, I called Dumas getting paid, but I'll tell you what, he's not getting his win bonus, and he probably barely deserves to get his show bonus. But hey, Cedricus, you got a free vasectomy, so you saved some money there, bro. Oh, dude, the Wheel of Doom done him dirty. He called it as a no contest. I did pick Dumas by TKO, and he was, who knows how this fight would have gone. It was Dumas. I was surprised that he had the MVP bladed stance going, and he was throwing his hands up, doing star jumps and shit. It was starting to go a bit Dumas's way, but there wasn't enough of the fight to really read into this. Then Zachary Reese just kicks him in the dick bad in round 1. Fucking nasty kick right to the box, and then next minute Boot Gang can't get up and gets taken out on a stretcher. He was going, I can't feel my balls right now. And eventually the ref just said, no, well, he's not getting up. Dumas almost looked a little bit ashamed of himself and went kind of, as when the ref called it off, I think he was probably putting it on a little bit and trying to get a free no contest and a payday. But I think it's going to be pretty hard for Dumas to get an adoption if he wants kids now looking like that, and now that his dick don't work, because that was a fucking bad dick kick. Zachary Reese kicks like a mule as well. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. I can't believe the Wheel of Doom called a no contest, and I just happened to pick Dumas for some reason. I said he would be the one that does the cheating, but turns out he gets done bad by a dick kick by Reese. And Got to give me that one, boys. That's a perfect pick there. I called a no contest. How many of you guys were calling that fight for a no contest? I will take that one. The Wheel of Doom will take that one. Buffer called it a no decision contest as well, so I've never seen that one, and that basically sums up this fight. A no decision contest. All right, last few fights down on the early prelims. The early prelims were pretty sick. I think the whole card delivered. Alessandro Costa versus Alden Correa. I called the up-and-coming prospect Correa by TKO. We had a close round one with Costa looking a little bit more explosive, but Correa staying in there and peppering the jab, getting some good leg kicks, sticking and moving, making Costa miss a fair bit. A pretty dull but tense first round, and I did give it to Correa 10-9. Round two, Correa got an early takedown. I was impressed with Correa's ability to mix in the wrestling and to not look lost in the wrestling with a seasoned UFC jiu-jitsu guy, Costa. So well done. That's good signs for Correa. Correa got the early takedown. Costa tried to pull guard mid-air and latched his legs around him and jumped onto his arms like he was Vanessa Demopoulos jumping into Joe Rogan's. And then just, easy takedown for Correa. He worked a heavy, tight top guard game and landed some minor shots. Costa stayed dangerous and threw up some submissions and stayed composed and eventually grabbed a leg and got out. Then just Correa smudged him for a bit up against the cage and chain wrestled him, which is, again, pretty good signs. He's got a good, well-rounded skill set, Correa. I was impressed. Costa had a big explosive reversal then and sort of threw him back over his head. And attacked and held onto the position for a bit, but then Correa just exploded out, rolled over and ended back on top. So even another good sign for Correa where he's got a good ground game and ground defence. Correa finished that round strong, landed some big shots on Costa from the top, some shoulder strikes to finish and a bit of top pressure. And I think a clear 2-0 after 2 rounds for Alden Correa. Something happened to Alessandro Costa at the end of the fight. He broke or he dislocated his toe at the end of it, round 2, and Correa knew it, and he just started getting on him and pressuring. I think they had to pop his little toe back in or something, and the body language was bad from No Costa. Correa came out, started pressuring him forward, wounded him, got a couple of good shots on him, bang, bang with a combination up against the cage. Costa looked completely done, and then Correa, again, great finishing instincts, well-rounded performance, fires up a bad, some nasty ground and pound and gets it done by round 3 TKO. A really good finishing instincts shown by Correa and an impressive debut in the UFC. Costa was a big favourite. I picked Correa by underdog by TKO, and that was a good pick by me. I was feeling good after that one, but yeah, things went a little bit downhill. But hey, not too bad. Monsi Rendon and Alice Pereira. This was a pretty ass performance from Alice Pereira. She did not get the left hook KO in the Shama, didn't get the decision. Montserrat Rendon just had a superior strategy, walked Pereira down and didn't give her the opportunity to have a Natalia Silva performance, just pressured her too much. Alice Pereira is not that good. The threat of the takedown from Montserrat Rendon, even though it's not that great, was enough to have her on the back foot missing and looking pretty shit. She did have a decent flurry to finish round 1, and that round 1 probably could have gone either way. I think it was her best round, Pereira, but could have gone to Rendon as well. It was a shit start from Pereira. Same shit, round 2, boring fight. The biggest moment came when halfway through, Rendon sort of shoved her like this up against the cage and she just tripped over. Pereira just tripped over and then sort of was on the back foot and lost her footwork, and Rendon just stampeded, throwing like a barrage of punches that would have made Juliana Pena pretty proud. But they were effective, and this is women's MMA, and this is what we see from these lower level fights, that you just have to be the more aggressive fighter with a willingness to win, and Rendon in a big moment showed that. So credit to her. They were getting so sloppy. Pereira is not on the level of this Natalia Silva girls and people like that. Rendon out-hearted her, out-dogged her, gritted down, poured it down, and actually was able to rock Pereira up against the cage. Pereira was shooting really bad takedowns from out of nowhere that showed how rock she was and how bad it was going for her. And Rendon was stuffing it, getting the better body language, looking good, and got the back at the end and almost got a rear naked choke. I think it was pretty in as well, and Rendon holds on to it until the buzzer goes, and Pereira needs a finish going into the third, and it did not happen. Pereira tried to initiate some wrestling that showed she was done. She had nothing for Rendon on the feet, which was pretty sad for Pereira. They both landed a whole bunch of nothing for that whole third round. Then at the end, Rendon spammed some straight punches, which knocked out Pereira's mouthpiece and just did enough to win the round in a pretty uneventful fight. Rendon gets it done, 30-27. keeps the gate. Bad pick by me, but hey, who cares? And finally, we had Rodrigo Cezinando. Well, first we had Rodrigo Cezinando and Daniel Donchenko. Did no research on this. I didn't even realise this was the Ultimate Fighter fight, so that's my bad. Goes to show because I picked Cezinando and he got whooped. It was a sick round, but it was a big round. It was a good start to the card. There was some big exchanges early. Both were dangerous on the feet, swinging wildly. Rodrigo was landing early and looking all right and varying his attacks up, but Donchenko just landed a mad elbow that split him above the eye, and that was a big deciding factor in this fight because the blood started pouring into Cezinando's, I think it was his right eye. It was like on the inside here, and it just split and it just got really, really bloody and nasty. A bit of chain wrestling and some good kind of well-roundedness shown by Donchenko. Daniil was looking dangerous. The ref had a good look at the cut at one point and sort of gave it the stamp of approval. And then just Donchenko just targeted it bad with nasty step-in elbows, knees, good dirty boxing. There was a couple of wrestling exchanges and a massive knee to the dick that fucked up Rodrigo. Again, just take your foul, do your one foul fight and get your compromise your opponent. And then after the box shot, they scrapped it out a bit longer, and then Cezinando basically got hit with a big 10-piece combination from Donchenko that just accumulated the damage, and Cezinando couldn't take any more and went down with blood leaking all over him, and it was just finishing instincts from Donchenko. Poured it on, lights him up, and wins the Ultimate Fighter season 33 in the welterweight division. Great performance from Donchenko. Very good round. A violent start to a very violent card, and a shit start to a pretty shit night of picks. But hey, what you going to do? I was trying to pick some underdogs. I just happened to pick some of the wrong ones. Didn't want to go with what everyone was picking, and kind of paid the price for it a bit. If I was to learn anything from this card, it would be that on the ones where they're favourites, but they're favourites for a reason. You got to trust that. You can't just pick every random underdog. You got to pick the underdogs that are worth picking. The Diego Lopez style underdogs. I'm not too mad about the Rob Font pick, but I am feeling a bit annoyed about not picking Diego Lopez. I'm a big fan. I rate Diego Lopez, and that was a bit sad. Look, overall the card was absolutely amazing. Over-delivered. Rocks and diamonds on the picks. Of course, I went fucking 6-7 on the card. Rakunana. Had to happen. It's been in my head all week. and yeah, only fitting that I went 6-7 on the card in picks. 6 correct, 7 incorrect. It was looking good there for a while. I think I was up 6-3, but got steamrolled in the main card. So that actually balances the picks out in the channel to 50-50, and it's perfectly balanced, as all things should be. The Wheel of Doom got its first scalp. I can't complain about that. 2-0 on the lock of the week, so they've been good. Called the fight of the night, even then I called that it would be the fight of the night. It was, the main event clearly was the fight of the night. One of the best fights I've seen all year. One of the best, one of the most violent, nasty finishes and first rounds and survivals and stories that I've seen in a long time. It went hard as fuck. I'm frothing that result. That does set up a little bit of interesting, a series of events in the featherweight division, which, to be honest, needed a bit of life breathed back into it. Diego Lopez has his huge moment, deserves a huge fight after this. He humbled the last standing member of the Fighting Nerds, and the fall off of the Fighting Nerds needs to be studied. I reckon it was epic, bro. I'm thinking maybe Lopez versus Evloev for a title shot. They've got some history and some beef. I think Larone's getting that main event title fight against Volk, but you never know. Something could happen, and then Lopez will be ready. He's always ready. He turns up and just does his work. We know what we're expecting from Lopez, and his stocks have gone up hugely after tonight. I can honestly see Lopez being a problem for anyone at featherweight, and even reckon he'd give some guys problems at lightweight. So respect to Diego Lopez. Fucking sick performance, great card, shit picks as usual, but not too far away. There's a few things to be happy about. I am annoyed at the Stoltzfus loss and the co-main, and it does suck for Jared Gordon that he went out that way. Pretty happy though for Hernandez. That was a good pick. Dusko, yeah, good pick. Tatiana Suarez, happy she got it done. Diego Lopez, happy that CP got defeated and destroyed. Boot gang carried out on a stretcher. That doesn't suck too bad. Got done by the Wheel of Doom, and so we're back on with that. And there's a couple of interesting prospects that emerged: Donchenko, Correa, David Martinez. Overall, fucking sick card. Great way to kick off the next couple of months of huge UFC fights. And Punch-Ons lives to fight another day. So give us a like, subscribe to the channel, give us a follow on Instagram. If you want more cooked 50-50 picks than just coin flip fights and chaos and more of the Wheel of Doom, then you know what to do. Subscribe to Punch-On's MMA and follow me on Instagram. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the picks and the chaos and the multis for the week, even though we got fucking none of them. But hey, that's what it's all about. See you next week. I think we've got a week off now. Next card is a big one. I think it's the Aussie card, so I'll be doing a bit of work for the big what's his name, Dominic Reyes versus Carlos Ulberg card. Plenty to break down for that. Plenty of Aussie prospects happening. So yeah, we're coming into a good run of UFC. All right, give that channel a like. Give us a subscribe. I'll see you boys in the next one. Punch on.